You're listening to the Pigskin Cafe, a podcast covering the wild world of college football. On tap for today are hot takes, controversy, and analysis on your favorite team. Here's your host, Hampton Sipper, in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back in to the Pigskin Cafe. My name is Hampton Sipper, and joining me tonight, I've got Mr. Chase Haney, and I've got Logan Farabee for yet another podcast. Glad to have him aboard. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out our Week 6 recap show that he was also on. Had a great time breaking down Alabama versus Texas A&M and Texas versus Oklahoma. Tonight on the show, we're going to look at Week 7 and pick those games really quickly. We got Washington, Oregon that we're going to talk about, Miami, North Carolina, USC versus Notre Dame, Missouri versus Kentucky, Texas A&M versus Tennessee, and finally Alabama versus Arkansas. Before I hand it over to Chase, quick programming note, be sure to subscribe to the Pigskin Cafe on YouTube. Leave us a like and leave us a comment. Hit that notification bell and follow us on social media. Chase, you ready to steer the ship, as they say, man?
Yeah, man, I'm ready to take off. I was just noticing that you have a Braves shirt on. And by the time that this episode's released, the Braves will probably already be out of the playoffs at this point.
Probably, at the rate we're going.
We're recording this on a Monday, and the Braves are already down 4-0. And I don't know if we've even got to hit the series. So, might as well wear that shirt while you can. But I think by the time this episode's released, we'll probably know the fate of this season for them. So,
unfortunately, yeah.
With that being said, there's no baseball that I'm really dying to watch right now. So let's talk about some college football. And, Hampton, we pointed out last week that just this season is flying by. And I think it's just when you have something that you love, it's just going to feel like it's fleeting, that it's happening faster than it should. And that's definitely the case for this season. And yet we still feel like we're learning a ton, which is just a fun dynamic, which makes the preview show even more just intriguing to talk about. So let's go Pac-12, which I will say, if you cut on ESPN, they are talking about the Pac-12 like their conference could hang in the National Football League. They're so good.
They're in a love affair, man.
I mean, they are all over it. And, of course, everyone's question is why couldn't they get a TV deal done? So the Pac-12, which will no longer be a thing coming a few years, more than likely, has some really good teams that have not quite lost yet, which this weekend is going to have is that right?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, all right. You made me feel like I was off there.
It's just crazy. You're like, they haven't quite lost yet.
Well, I would say T-minus, 5 days until somebody's O's got to go, as they say in boxing. So this is actually a super intriguing matchup. It always is. But let's talk about Washington, Oregon. Kind of what's your one takeaway and who you think wins the game?
So, I mean, honestly, this game last year, I believe they played in November. I think it was one of the best games of the year, back and forth. Bo Nix gets hurt late in that game, but Washington comes out with a victory on the arm of Michael Penix. And it's Washington at home. I think that's going to be a high-flying offensive shootout. But I'm going to go Oregon. I think Oregon has a better defense. They're better at the lines of scrimmage, and they're going to go in there and get a big win versus the Huskies. And to kind of echo what you said earlier about the season flying by, but we're still learning a lot, October, November is where the men separate themselves from the boys in college football. So going forward each week, you're going to see teams separating, teams falling by the wayside. And with this game, I don't really think that happens. I think the loser of this game still has everything in front of them and has a chance to win the Pac-12. But I think Oregon is going to win the day and keep it going. And ultimately, I'm going to pick them to win the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm. Man, this is kind of one of I would say a weak spot, because I've noticed, I've kept up with the Pac-12, but haven't, stayed up for Pac-12 at night by any means to watch these games. And admittedly, when you get married, you just start going to bed at 9:30, and I don't know why that's a thing, but I fell asleep during the Cowboys game at halftime. I mean, it's pitiful at this point. What
Well, there
happened?
wasn't
Can you
anything
hear me?
watching that one, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't think I missed much. I'm just intrigued by Michael Penix Jr. I really want to
I've
see.
lost Chase.
I really want to see him do well, not for any real reason other than just, way to be a dude at a place that's a good program, but it'd be fun to just watch his success. So I'm actually going to pick Washington to win this game. I haven't got a chance to see much of these guys except for Oregon just put the beat down on Colorado. So I think the Oregon, everything would point to picking them, that they're probably the better team. But I just want to see Michael Penix Jr. just have a day, put the team on his back. And man, I think it'd be fun to see him get drafted to a good team. I just think he's got the stuff from what I've seen. So that's something. Yeah, and I think not to say that Bo Nix doesn't. I think that he's been developed super well. Like, credit to all the coaches that have just put their hands around him and made him to the player he is. But it's been fun to watch Michael Penix Jr., kind of guy you really want to cheer for. So, Scooter, I'm going to throw it over to you. We're talking about the Washington-Oregon game. What's your one kind of takeaway of how this might play out, and then which team do you think wins? Because the jury's split right now.
Yeah, so going into this game, Michael Penix Jr. has actually been my favorite to win the Heisman from the start of the season. He's been super fun to watch. I think even from last season up to now, he's been super well-rounded. I think he's gotten even better this season. He seems like he's just constantly in a groove every time the ball's in his hands. I was picking Washington to win this game at home. They're opening as a 3-point favorite. This is going to be an offensive shootout. I think everybody knows that. I think this game is going to come down to who has the ball last, because there won't be any defense in this game, in my opinion. But with that being said, I'm going to flip my pick. I'm actually going to go Oregon. I really want to stick with my Heisman favorite, but I think Oregon is the more well-rounded team. I think that they have a better defense. Hampton, I think you kind of hinted at that. I think Oregon, I think Oregon from the start of this season has just been super focused on both sides of the ball. They look very driven on both sides of the ball. And so I think they kind of have the edge in this game, in my opinion. I think Michael Penix Jr. has a terrific game. I don't think Oregon really slows him down, but I think Oregon does just enough to get the edge, maybe a turnover here, a couple, which will make the difference in this game. So I'm going to pick Oregon despite my Heisman hopeful from the start of the season. And I think going forward, obviously, Bo Nix is obviously in the race to win the Heisman as well. This has big implications on that race, and I think with Bo Nix probably going to have a terrific game as well. I think he probably edges out Michael Penix Jr. and seats himself very high in the Heisman race. So, going to pick Oregon.
We like it.
There you go.
Hey, well, I'll stand on this island. That's okay. That's how we like it. So, let's talk about this next game. ACC matchup. Got Miami versus North Carolina. And I'm kind of interested to see who you guys go with. And it might be that it's more intriguing in my mind than it actually is. So, Hampton, I'll start with you. Just give me a short synopsis and then give me your pick.
Well, we got to talk just a minute about the debacle.
Elephant in the room.
Absolute debacle
Dude,
that Miami had. I mean, I have never seen a team lose a game like that. And,
oh my gosh.
Well, excuse me, I did in 2018 when Oregon had the ball and they did a similar thing. And I believe they fumbled it, and then Stanford ended up beating them. Who was the head coach at the time? Mario Cristobal. I love the guy. I think he's great. I think he's a great recruiter and a good program builder. But as an in-game coach, man, this guy struggles big time. I mean, there was no excuse to lose this game. They were playing to a Georgia Tech team that is mediocre at best. Love Brent Key. Shout out to him. But, I mean, to let a guy behind you, Mr. Christian Leary, former Bama wideout, and Haynes King throws a dime of a ball, and they lose on the last seconds of the game. Just embarrassing. And I kind of think, not that the program's broken, I think they'll kind of rally internally, but I'm really liking what I'm seeing from North Carolina. Drake May's playing at a high level. No surprise. They get Tez Walker back. And I believe this game is at North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. So if you can fact check me on that,
Yeah, it
Chase.
is. Yeah, it is.
It's
It
in
is?
North Carolina.
Okay. So yeah, I'm going North Carolina to win this game and kind of continue their stake at the ACC title. So give me Drake May, North Carolina.
Scooter, how do you see it?
Hampton, I think I'm with you. Obviously, elephant in the room. Very embarrassing for Miami. You already covered that, but I got to say it again. I mean, that is the most embarrassing loss I've ever seen a team have to suffer through. The emotion on the sideline was very evident. I don't know if y'all saw the ESPN posted. I don't even know who it was, but it was crying and cussing, and I mean, all the emotions flowed. Can't blame
Can you
him.
read the
That's as
transcript for
bad
us,
as it gets.
Logan?
Can't translate.
So it was very rough. But looking ahead, I think that Miami is still a talented team. With that embarrassing loss, but I think that looking forward to the North Carolina game, I think North Carolina is just a little bit more talented. This is going to be the most talented team North Carolina has played thus far in the season. But I think they have a couple too many weapons. I think Drake May has played very good all year. He's been very efficient with the ball. I don't have it in front of me, but I think he's averaging like close to 300 passing yards a game, something like maybe a little bit under, something like that. Been real efficient with the ball, ran the offense really well, and now he has the addition of having Tez Walker, another really talented guy, probably their best wide receiver to throw to. So I think this game will be important. I think getting him involved in this game will be important for North Carolina, kind of getting him in a groove for the rest of the season after missing. I'm going to take North Carolina. They're opening as a 3.5-point favorite, I think. I'm going to take them by 2 touchdowns, though. I think they have too much talent for Miami. I'm taking them, and North Carolina as well at home. I'm taking them by 2 touchdowns over Miami.
Yeah. Man, that 3-point spread at home, I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, I think I'm with you guys. We'll keep it moving. Actually, man, I was sitting here and I was looking and I was like, Miami's undefeated. This is a pretty good matchup. Then I looked it up real quick and I saw they had one loss and I was thinking, oh, wait, I wonder who they lost to. And then I completely forgot that it was this past weekend. That is one of those, it's just one of those, we can't trust our coach type moments that you don't want in your program. So, I think we've talked about that enough. Let's move on to USC versus Notre Dame, and this one can be quick. I think it's an intriguing matchup, but Hampton, I think it really simply comes down to this: is Notre Dame going to be relevant enough to stay in this game, and is USC going to have the defense to actually beat a pretty good team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would have been. It was a much more intriguing matchup a couple weeks ago, especially before Notre Dame lost to Louisville. But this game is at home in South Bend, and, styles make fights. And I trust the Notre Dame defense. They've been pretty solid all year long. I don't trust the USC defense. And as bad and as abhorrent, shout out Tui for that word, as abhorrent as their offense has been the past 2 or 3 weeks, I believe they're going to be able to run the ball on USC. I think they're going to be able to play a little bit of bully ball. And after what I've seen from USC the past 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to go Notre Dame to get a big win at home to ding that USC resume a little bit, because I just think they match up well with USC. Now, could Caleb Williams go off and throw for 500 yards and it not be close? Absolutely. But Alex Grinch and that defense, I do not trust. I don't trust it as far as I could throw it. Give me Notre Dame in this one.
Scooter, how do you see it?
Notre Dame at home is going to be a real tough game for USC. Obviously, very heartbreaking loss for them coming out of Louisville. I think they're going to have an emotional chip on their shoulder going into this game against USC, especially going back home to play in front of their home crowd. I just don't trust Sam Hartman, man. He looked really, really bad against that game, against Louisville. I mean, it was about as atrocious as you could get. And with that being said, I also don't trust USC's defense. Like you said, they gave up 500 total yards to Arizona, 500 total yards of offense. I mean, that is about as impressively bad as a team's defense can be, and especially against Arizona. I mean, they're not not a great offensive team. Go ahead, Anthony. You have something to say?
It was that quarterback's second start too. Like that
Okay.
quarterback has only started 2 games and they gave that much up.
Yeah, cherry on top then. That's very impressively bad. I mean, it can't get any worse than that. USC's defense is basically non-existent. But even though they're playing at home, even though USC's defense is non-existent, I don't trust Sam Hartman. I think they have the emotional chip on their shoulder, but I think that this game with Notre Dame, I don't think they can hang with Caleb Williams. I think he's just their offense is a little bit too high octane. I don't trust Notre Dame's offense to keep up with USC's. I don't think, honestly, Notre Dame's play calling up to this point hasn't been. I mean, their offense has not been impressive at all. I don't think they hang with Caleb Williams in their offense. I think that Notre Dame scores points just because of USC's terrible defense, but I'm going to take USC in a close one, taking one at home from Notre Dame. I'm going to pick USC.
I think that was a period on the end of that sentence. I'm banking. Scooter, we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you, but I'm banking on this thing being able to kind of like upload like it usually does, where it kind of can backlog almost. So, if you're watching this video and you're wondering why Hampton and I are laughing and the video looks great, just know that on our screens we're having trouble hearing him. I think this is going to be a close game for no real reason other than that's just how Notre Dame plays football. It'll be a close game, and I think that it's just enough where, again, Marcus Freeman, he can get his guys. Say what you want, that guy can get them up and ready to play, and I think they actually come ready to play, and I think they lose this game in a close one that's a heartbreaker and just puts another dagger into this season. So give me USC. They'll have clear flaws, and it's almost like the Lincoln Riley system is we know what our flaws are, and everyone else does, and who cares because we still win. So, fellas, let's move on to we've got a couple more games. This one doesn't have to – we can just kind of pick this one. Missouri versus Kentucky. Hampton, how do you see that game going?
I think this game is at Kentucky. Kentucky got embarrassed on primetime TV because it was an awful matchup for them because they're simply one-dimensional on offense. I think they're going to have more success against a Missouri defense that was spotty at best versus LSU. But give me the Missouri Tigers, man. That offense is humming. Brady Cook and Luther Burden were not the problem in the game on Saturday. Give me Mizzou going in to Lexington and pulling the upset.
Love it. Scooter, how do you see it?
Can't go against that, Hampton. I've been really impressed with Missouri all season. I think they've played really well. Yeah, can you hear me? We good?
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I'm picking Missouri as well. That game against Kentucky, I know we're just quick picking this game, but Kentucky looked terrible against Georgia. I mean, just flat out. That was embarrassing. I thought Devin Leary was absolutely terrible. I don't think he's it. I don't think he's a quality quarterback running that offense. I think Missouri's a good football team. Brady Cook's looked really good all season. I'm taking Missouri. And just to kind of go off on a tangent a little bit, I have to say it. I've always thought that Mark Stoops was a likable guy, seems like a likable coach, but he is a perennial underperformer. I mean, the guy just, when it comes to the big games, he's always going to wet the bed. He has his team hyped up, ready to play against Georgia. Everybody's talking about how good their run game is, and it is. They have a great running back, but he's constantly just losing the big games. He can't win them, and that's been the story of his career at Kentucky. I think he's got 2 seasons where he's lost 3 games. That's the least amount of losses he's had. Every other one has been like 8-5 or whatever. And he's always underperforming. So I expect the same from this season. I don't see why it would be any different. Him just being 1 loss to Georgia and winning out the rest of the season. I'm taking Missouri to win against Kentucky and just continue to show why he's a perennial underperformer.
That's such a good take though, because you just think about the times where you're like, man, need somebody in the East to beat Georgia. Just know Kentucky's never going to be that team.
It ain't going to be Kentucky. I promise you.
Missouri's going to have them come up to Missouri. They're going to have UGA come up to Missouri, and it's going to be raining like crazy, and somehow they're going to pull it off and beat Georgia. But you're right, it's never Kentucky. Hampton, you got to throw something in.
Yeah, one quick point. Stoops coaches scared in big games. Like, he's super conservative, and I'm sorry, but when you're a coach of a team and you're like that, that has a residual effect on your guys. I mean,
Absolutely.
they look scared of Georgia. Then they actually moved the ball pretty well, but then they had some stupid penalties. I couldn't agree more, Logan. I like Mark Stoops. I think he's a good guy. He's done a good job with that program. But ultimately, he's never going to get him over the top because he coaches like a coward in big games. I'm not saying he is a coward, so he coaches in big games. Go ahead, Chase.
Dang, all right. So the Mark Stoops hate show is going live. Hey, grateful that you're all tuning in. Hey, he's conservative, has great conservative values. Maybe you should run. You should be a politician. Hey, let's just pick this game. We've got. Let me pick that game. I'll do Mizzou. I think it's the same as y'all. Texas A&M versus Tennessee. Does anybody? Let me see. Where does that game being played?
Tennessee.
Ooh. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
All right, so for Jebediah Davis, we're going to pick this game. And,
shout out William Wallace.
So I'll actually let Scooter start. So Scooter, the guy that you've allegedly choked out one time in your life.
I have witnesses.
Is a Tennessee fan.
This is why Graham should be here tonight. He could vouch for me. This is an interesting matchup. Texas A&M coming off the loss to Alabama. Tennessee, had a disappointing season up to this point versus their expectations going into the season. So you say it's at home for Tennessee. That kind of alters my pick a little bit, I guess. I kind of feel like Texas A&M was going to go into this game with a chip on their shoulder after losing to Alabama and trying to make a statement win. I haven't been impressed with Joe Milton at all. I think he's been super unimpressive. Great arm on a quarterback. He has great athleticism, but he's like Jalen Milroe's been in his worst moments 2.0, except for it's been consistent that way. So bad for Tennessee. I do think being at home, I think Tennessee can pull out a win. Texas A&M's got a really talented team, but it just seems like even against the game in the game against Alabama handed that game to them on a silver platter multiple times, and they could not take advantage of it. They were, made mistakes, crucial mistakes to not, take advantage of Alabama's mistakes. I think Josh Heupel with his offense and his play calling ability, I think maybe they'll have the edge, especially at home. So I'm going to pick Tennessee in this game.
Hampton, how do you see it?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me to pick because I see two clear advantages. I'm sorry, Chase, did I cut you off?
No. You just acted like you had some family connection that made it hard for you to pick.
Yeah, I'm really invested in this game for all those who have come before me. But with Tennessee and A&M, there's two intriguing matchups. The Texas A&M defensive line that is stout against the Tennessee offensive line, because if they can stop their run and kind of limit how well they do on first, second down, force them into third and longs, and with the tempo that Tennessee goes with, you can kind of play ball control, force 3 and outs, and then it kind of shifts in your favor a great deal. And you put the game on Joe Milton, who, like you said, Logan, has not been very impressive, been very inconsistent, very erratic. And when he's played well is when they've had a good run game to complement him. I don't think they're going to have that this weekend. But on the contrary, what is A&M's biggest weakness, like we talked about earlier? Their secondary. So will Joe Milton be able to take advantage down the field versus that secondary that is pretty bad, to be honest with you, especially in pass coverage? I'm going to go with the A&M defensive line causing enough trouble for Tennessee, and that their offense is going to be able to do just enough, probably be very physical at the point of attack, be able to run the ball. Max Johnson going to make a few plays through the air. I think A&M bounces back in this game, because if they do not, the calls for Jimbo are going to get louder.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to kind of have a snowball effect, because they have this game, and then they also have Ole Miss and LSU left. A potential 5 losses there, boys. That ain't going to be good, and it's not going to make the people in College Station very happy. So I think A&M wins this game, but it's going to be turned up to 375 for 20 minutes warm. Give me A&M, bounce back. Going to be a really intriguing game, though, 2:30 CBS.
I like it. I'm not going to call this game because I'm actually going to be on the call.
Oh, nice.
uh,
Who's replacing Gary?
as Herb Street always says,
Yeah.
he always says it's going to be a really good matchup. Man, what a game! I mean, really, this has always been the question mark for A&M. It's like, okay, once you've played your Super Bowl in the middle of the season, trying to beat Alabama, what do you do next? So,
Yep.
I'm actually going to give it to them. I think this Tennessee team has dropped off since last year. Doesn't quite have the quarterback. I think A&M can kind of keep the game vanilla and going to try to win. That doesn't mean that Milton doesn't hit some guys deep. He's able to finally connect. Really impressive that he can throw a 100-yard ball, but we'll see if it's helpful in this game. So let's keep on moving. Last game we want to talk about is Bama versus Arkansas. Hampton, I want to give you a little bit of space, but I want to ask you this. How does Arkansas wake up for this game? Like, what kind of mood are they in as they wake up for this game? Are they excited? Do they already kind of feel defeated? Does their season feel like it's already a wrap? Or is this what's going to be the savior for them finishing the season strong?
I feel they come in limping into this game, man. They have had a brutal, brutal stretch. I know I talked about it last week. They had BYU, then they had LSU, then they had A&M, then they had Ole Miss, and now they're coming to play Alabama. I think this team is, they're just wore out. That is a grind. It has a kind of a stacking effect of kind of wearing down. KJ Jefferson's played really well for them, but I just don't think they're great everywhere else. Last year they had Drew Sanders, they had Bumper Pool, they had Jalen Catalon, some guys that you really knew on that defensive side. They're not there this year. Rocket Sanders has been kind of hurt a little bit throughout the year. I just don't think that they match up very well in this game. Their offensive line is one of the worst in college football. They're really, really bad. And going against this front seven of Alabama, not a good matchup for Woo Pig Suey. Give me Alabama to win this game. Probably, I'm going to say anywhere from 17 to 24 points. I think this is, again, another building block game. Get the offense right, make some tweaks, get that running game going, and play some of the younger guys, man. I really would love to see Justice Haynes this weekend in significant moments, like when the game is still in doubt. Give him a little confidence as we go toward the latter half of the year. Give me Bama. Logan, what you think, man?
Yeah, Arkansas didn't have a chance in the game. Let's just be honest. They've had a rough, like you said, a gauntlet of a season so far. Then having to go up against that front seven of Alabama's defense, it's just going to be the same story for them, unfortunately. I think KJ Jefferson's a good quarterback, and I think he has a good future ahead of him. But Alabama's just way too much for them to handle. I think focusing on Alabama, though, there's a couple things I want to see from them. First off, last season with the penalties, it was very, very troublesome. It was very uncharacteristic of a Nick Saban coach team. And coming off of that game against Texas A&M with, was it 14 penalties? Again, it's very uncharacteristic, very frustrating to watch. That's something I want to see going forward, is them cleaning up those penalties. The good thing for Alabama is that it's fixable. That's easy mistakes to fix, but they got to fix them. With this team, looking forward to playing the rest of their season, winning out the SEC West, and possibly a SEC championship and beyond. That those kind of penalties just can't happen, especially in the big games, because those are what cost you. They've been shooting themselves in the foot, and those are things they've got to get cleaned up. So I really want to see how Alabama responds on that side of things, the easy, simple mistakes, and if they keep just shooting themselves in the foot. In this game, I don't think it matters anyway. I think they get the job done no matter what, just because they're way more talented than Arkansas. But still, I think it's a building block to focus on going forward throughout the season. And like you alluded to, Hampton, with the younger guys, I want to see Ty Simpson get in the game, actually. I hope that Alabama plays well enough throughout the game that he gets some early reps. I know that I have been one of the proponents of, the complaining about Jalen Milroe and his play. I've been really impressed with the way he has improved substantially throughout the season. It's kind of interesting because you had the game against Ole Miss where it was kind of the tale of two halves. where he really, kind of improved his game, got the job done in the second half. Then you go and we play Mississippi State, where the game doesn't really matter. We just kind of blow them out. Then you go to Texas A&M, again, tale of two halves. He looks very bad in the first half, shines in the second half, does really well. It's kind of funny how that pattern's kind of played out, and I think this is, again, going to be the same thing with like the Mississippi State game. He's going to play really well probably throughout the whole game just because he has way more talent than them. He's going to be able to shine. But I think it's going to be interesting to see some of the things that he does as far as mistakes go in the game and be able to build, not just blow out the team just because he's better than them. Can he make the simple throws? The head scratchers like, man, why does he throw that ball? Why is he throwing it into that coverage? Can he clean some of that stuff up so you don't have to worry about the next big game? And again, going back to Ty Simpson, Jalen Milroe has really improved throughout the season, but I think it's important to see Ty get some meaningful snaps, especially early on in the game, in case Jalen Milroe were to go down or we need to count on Ty Simpson in a later game. So I really want to see him get some more reps because I don't think we've really seen his ability thus far in the USF game. I don't think he got enough reps to really be able to tell just how good he can play. So a couple of things I want to see from Alabama, but of course I expect them to win big in Arkansas.
I think you guys recapped it. There's not much more to be said. I think Alabama wins this game. It might be a good week to kind of get healthy and, like you said, put in some guys maybe a little bit earlier than we naturally would. And I think the one thing that's great about this team is that everybody seems to be good. There's not a drastic drop-off to who's second string, third string. I think you saw that this weekend against A&M whenever Malachi Moore went out. And you really, it'd have been easy if you could have subbed somebody on for Malachi, but what they did is they almost moved everyone, and everyone's playing a new position, but that didn't freak anybody out. If not, they played great the second half. So there's a lot of depth. There's a lot of wisdom in getting some guys some playing times before it's their time to call on their number. So for me, I think I'd like to see some of these wide receivers really get in there and just be able to get some meaningful catches where, like, it felt like this past week went to Burton over and over and over again, which is great. But like, let's throw it the knee black. Let's run more of our offense rather than, I feel like sometimes our play calling feels like we know we should run the ball and establish the run. It's like, hey, that's great, but sometimes you just got to take what the defense is giving you and let's play ball. So, Hampton, you have the final word, and then I'll get us out of here.
Sounds like a plan, man. Great points by both of you. I couldn't agree more. Logan, I like your thought process of what you would like to see in this game. And I'm with you. I would love to see more Ty Simpson, not only for this year, but also for his future development. I think that's really key. I think that's something that Saban can improve on is getting your backup quarterback more experience throughout the year, especially in garbage time. But I just want to say, we've been very critical of Jalen Milroe, and I've seen a lot of people this week doing victory laps because he played well in the game on Saturday, and I couldn't be happier for him. I'm glad he played well. I don't want the starting quarterback for Alabama to play bad just so I could be right because I thought Ty Simpson was going to be the starter. I want him to do well, but I think we've got to have some type of nuance that when we do criticize Jalen Milroe, it's not being a hater. It's not trying to put him down. It's just being honest and being analytical and breaking down his game, that there are things that he can improve on, even though he is improving. And I think that's something that I don't think needs to get lost in the discourse around him. And I hope he continues that trajectory going forward this Saturday.
Yeah, I think we're right there.
Totally agree with that.
And man, this is a good episode. It's going to be a good weekend of college football. It doesn't have that kind of marquee SEC, you got to tune in game. But every other conference seems to have something you need to watch for. So, hey, guys, thank you again for listening to this. And like we always say, wherever you are, whether you're in the shower or in the car on the way to work or on the way back to your house, grateful that you're listening and grateful you come here to listen for some college football. So the Pigskin Cafe is going to be closed for now. But until next Tuesday, chew on that. Enjoy a weekend of college football.